Welcome to the Deeks.ai podcast, where Wake Forest innovators unpack the real-world magic of artificial intelligence through candid conversations. I'm Michael Ferrari.
I'm Ryan Scholl.
Please join us as we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming work across campus, one fascinating story at a time.
For the class of 2026, AI fluency isn't a bonus, it's the entry fee. Senior computer science major Logan Jacobs breaks down how to navigate college courses with the help of artificial intelligence. He discusses the reality of a job market where AI is table stakes and explains why he uses Deep Research and NotebookLM to digest complex academic material without short-circuiting his own thinking. It's a candid look at the ethics of student motivation, where asking the right questions is more vital than finding the answers. All right. Today we are joined by Logan Jacobs. He is a senior computer science major and a linguistics minor. He also serves as a TA for the Intro to High Performance Computing. And what else did you want people to know about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Logan. I guess I have an interest in HPC. I'm enjoying systems. And I'm looking for a career in tech. I just started Jiu-Jitsu a couple months ago, so a nice little fact about me. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about AI and some of the ramifications that has on our daily life.
Okay, so I'm going to go way off script immediately here. You just started Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
One of the hot nerdy topics everywhere is these robots that are doing taekwondo and backflips, and it's probably not the best thing we should be demonstrating with robots, considering everybody's fear of robots taking over. But is that why you're taking jiu-jitsu? Are you planning to defend the rest of us?
That's so funny you say that.
Because it's true.
I totally tried to build, and it wasn't a robot, one of these, but there have been some robot grappling dummies where you can submit them and they'll, make a sound, or a light will come on when you bend a joint a certain way. So I tried to make one of those just out of like sand and PVC. So it's funny you say that. But that's not why, surprisingly enough, I picked it up. I like the idea that it's a system, and I have previous martial arts experience that I did throughout high school, traditional martial art called Do. So I wanted to kind of expand into a different martial art, a grappling art, and I just have an interest in it, I suppose.
Well, if you do end up fighting in like a giant mech or something, that will be pretty cool. So for your sake, I'll hold
that. All right. Let's get us back on the rails a little bit here. So you're a senior now, and I was not a math major, but I can do simple math. You came into college before the big ChatGPT moment that we've talked ad nauseum about on the podcast, that became in the public eye. So you experienced high school and the beginning of your college without the advent of artificial intelligence, and then the last 2-3 years, you've integrated it into your college experience. Can you tell us about the difference between starting with it and then how you've started to use it in the last couple of years?
Yeah. So I think starting with it, I didn't, and I think this goes for everybody, I don't think anyone truly knew how to use it. So I remember asking it how to finish a paragraph I was writing, and it would rework the paragraph, or these early models weren't exactly perfect, but they were still helpful in some respects. But as I kind of moved through my college career, I know now what it's better at, and what I can more efficiently use it for, and where I can use it such that it's not short-circuiting my learning, which as a student I think is very important. So nowadays, I would use it for documentation of code I'm writing, or say I didn't know how to deploy it onto a GitHub Pages site. Then I can ask one of these models how I can do that. and then I can get a high-level overview of it, but I don't necessarily need to get into the details to distract from the actual work I'm doing.
So you went from that basic replace Google, replace your searching and just getting some information back to having it do something more specific and giving it some kind of action to do.
Yes, yes. So I would say I'm trying to pinpoint exactly what, say, an assignment is demanding of me, and if I want to go above and beyond, which I tend to do, um, some things I don't need to know every detail about. So I can, in that case, use AI to give me an overview of what I'm doing, and then proceed to do that.
I'm curious if your like in general, your use of it has changed in that both myself and people I've spoken to, their initial interaction, if you will, with these tools was more of a, put something in, get something out, and that's it, opposed to how I use it now. And it sounds like you do, where it's more working with it and expanding and asking it to go further. Is that how you were using it? And do you know if that's how like your peers and stuff were using it as well?
Yeah, I think that people now err uh, on the side of doing more with AI rather
Mm-hmm.
than doing more themselves. Um,
Mm-hmm.
where I try and use AI to help me come up with ideas along whatever process I'm following. Um, and I think people tend to do that as well. I don't think that uh, students, run to AI and ask for answers. I think they
Yeah.
want to understand, and they know that it's important to understand, what it is they're studying. Um, and so they'll have AI maybe make it a little bit more formulaic or easy to understand.
Yeah.
Um, and then you can, ask questions and then expand in the direction um,
Mhm.
uh, that you'd like to.
I think something that you had said in the past, which is very important, is the way students especially use AI is all based on their motivation and why they hear. And you had a very positive sentiment that students who come to Wake Forest, they're here to learn.
Mhm.
So they really want to learn. And I mean, let's be honest, there are some students who look for the shortcut at certain times, and everybody has their reasons. But the majority of students, they came here for a reason and they want to learn. And you have boots on the ground, you're the one seeing this, and I think what you said is you're seeing the motivation of the students to really learn, so they're using it to augment their abilities and to help rather than just take that shortcut. Would you still agree with that same statement?
Absolutely, absolutely. I do think that there's always going to be people who take the shortcut, and even the people that want to learn and commit themselves to being a student um, will take the shortcut every now and again, right? Life gets in the way. You're running out of time on some assignment. Um, some things do, right? These things happen. But for the most part, um, I do think that people use it as, um, like you said, a way to augment their abilities and sort of give them easier access to uh, knowledge that would have been much harder to reach just a
Mhm.
couple years ago.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your academic use cases, maybe some examples of things you're using it for, and also maybe how professors have either assigned the work or have banned it in certain cases to really focus on your individual learning.
Mhm. So I've been using it for a lot of things, frankly. It's really more what I don't use it for. But uh, in I guess the first thing that my mind goes to is I wanted to make a visual representation, a graph representation of Jiu-Jitsu. So
Got to protect us against those robots.
exactly. Well, maybe it's not so great that I'm feeding them all this
That's
information.
true.
Man, I should have thought of that.
Because they are definitely trained on the Deeks.ai podcast.
But yes, yeah. I have the base in graph theory because of my time here as a computer science student. But actually like rendering it in a pleasing manner is not something that's really the core of my skill set. So I can ask AI, and I have, how can I go about this? And it says, oh yeah, use siteescape.js. Okay, I'll do that. And use a fast API backend. Okay, well, I wouldn't have known. So I think just using it for things that are basically the next step is really where I've started to use it. Identifying my limits and then trying to go beyond them. I think professors, do you mean professors using it for their own work, or?
I'm more interested in how they're using it with the students. Are you getting assigned any work? Say your professor either says you must use AI in this, or the reverse, like, hey, I don't want you to use AI. I want you to do this on your own, specifically not using it.
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Both. My my databases class last semester was really good. Good for this. Dr. Natalia Khoury really took a modern approach, in my opinion, to AI use in the classroom, where a lot of times we would be, freely able to use AI on some assignments, but she wanted explanation and she wanted more backing, I suppose. And there were also exercises in class, especially where she said specifically, don't use AI on this because you need to, build this specific skill. And once you've done that, you can ask AI, hey, code me up a script so that I don't have to do this again. But yeah, so some teachers will say, no, you can't use it at all. Other teachers say, yes, you can use it, but cite it. So I think really it does depend teacher to teacher, and especially subject to subject. Some subjects, I remember systems 1 and 2, we could use it a little bit, but really the focus is on understanding that course material, and not on necessarily producing enterprise level software. But in databases, it was more about what could you do now with this newfound power. So yes.
I'm curious if you have any thoughts about maybe a need for evolving, like the evolution of assignments with, AI tools in mind, because I'll have a bit of a, caveat or whatever at the end after I get your answer. But looking back now at my big final project when I was in school, easily that could be done in one day now with the help of these tools. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. It doesn't, number one, it doesn't take away from what you did, because you did it without
True.
that assistance, which is impressive on its own.
True.
But now I think students, given maybe the same sort of project, are allowed a little bit more creativity in their approach, because they're less limited on what they currently know. You can learn things incredibly quickly. You might not always remember them, and that's where repeated use and repeated recall kind of comes in. But you're able to produce something very quickly, that is quite good. And you can spend time adjusting it however you might want, tuning it. But I think students can focus more on the production of something that they really want to produce, which just wasn't always possible before.
Yeah. I think that's a great way too for people. We've talked about this with people in the past. I think that's a great real indicator too, if you really love what you're doing. Like if you start with, like you said, you were an overachiever. I tried to really do the same on projects when I was in school, is if you find yourself doing the assignment and then you just keep adding on to it, I think that's a good indication that that's what you should be doing. And the thing I wanted to add on after getting your answer is I did that. My project that I did it. I loved what I was doing. I already had I had more experience. I did my whole project one day. So in one day. So I was just curious.
Fair enough. Nice humble brag there.
No, I'm just saying it's just like the whole point of it is like talking about it and thinking about it now is it's like the people who are even into it more like than like I was and everything. And it's like I think you'll see those passionate people who are putting that work in anyway and getting stuff done.
Well, I think
quicker.
that goes back to what we were talking about before about the motivation.
Yeah.
The students who are motivated and want to learn, they will, if they use artificial intelligence, they will use it
Yeah.
in a way to increase their skills or our favorite word here, augment and go beyond versus shortcut that learning process or replace some skills. So if Michael had AI way back when he did this project, he could have done it in one day, but then he could have supercharged the assignment as well. He would
Yeah,
have probably done
yeah,
the same amount of
absolutely.
work, but just taken the project to a different level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, so you've seen a shift in the past couple of years in that. What do you think the overall student attitude is at this point in time towards artificial intelligence? Now, I get this is a wide range, and we can talk about different disciplines, but overall, is the student feeling still it's an answer machine, or are more students really seeing the power of it?
I think that, and this depends on which students you ask,
Mhm.
what their background is. Some are, scared for the future, which, I can understand that if like AI is going to upset some balance. Um, and I guess it already has. So I can understand being worried about that. Um, but I think that most people, uh, they'll see it. I mean, it is an answer machine,
Mhm.
but it's more than that too. And I think that the more that people use it, the more that they're starting to see how they can integrate it into what it is that they really truly love to do.
Interesting. I've always wondered if students are scared of it. Are they excited by it?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's good to get an actual perspective because a lot of times we hear what the faculty or staff think the
Mhm.
students are saying. But so
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that perspective. Now, I guess you are more technical than most students, but in some of your other classes or even talking to some of your friends, do you notice a difference in those different disciplines, in those different classes about maybe both the students' perceptions and attitudes and the professors? So I don't know what classes you've been taking, but is there a difference in the English and biology and computer science?
Yeah. I can talk about, I took a modern English grammar class for my linguistics minor last semester.
Mhm.
Um, and we talked quite a bit about AI. Um, and I think, starting with the professor, um, I think the professors understand that this is uh, really changing the dynamics of assignments and of the classroom. Um, I think assignments, like as they uh, are starting to change. Um, it's less go retrieve the answer and now tell me why the answer is what it is.
Mhm.
Because AI can, I mean, you can ask AI that, but even just, writing down what it said, um, you would still need to kind of comprehend and understand why it might be saying that. Um, I think students students are less lost in the middle of class. I've noticed. I've seen more kids, um, instead of looking something up in the middle of class and scrolling through Google for a couple of minutes, trying to find, the exact type of answer
So you say, like, while the professor's explaining something,
Yes.
if they don't immediately understand it, they will go to whatever their favorite AI tool is and say,
Mhm.
okay, I want to understand this so I understand what the professor's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot, and I think that's really good, because it doesn't, maybe it doesn't give the professor all the feedback that they would normally get, that, hey, kids aren't understanding this.
That was gonna be my question, and I'm wondering if I'm shooting ourselves in the foot here. Do you think it limits those kids asking the question, knowing that if they don't understand something, maybe other kids in the class don't?
Mm. I do think that could be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, what about like maybe the students that are a bit more apprehensive and worry that they're asking, a dumb question, whereas now they have a resource to ask it that's not going to judge them and
Of
whatnot.
course.
Yes. I think the kids that were going to ask are still going to ask.
Got it.
And I think the kids that weren't going to ask now can get that answer from AI instead of hearing what the teacher is saying to a tangential question that someone else might be asking. So I don't think it's strictly a benefit on the whole, but I think for the people that might be apprehensive to ask in the middle of class, it's good for them. The people that would have asked anyways, it stays about the same.
Yeah.
And I think for the professors, maybe it takes away a little bit from their feedback. So it might be good if those students who might be more apprehensive to ask in the middle of class would go up after class and say, I didn't quite understand this, but I asked AI, does this track? I think that might be a good way to kind of remedy that situation.
One of the use cases that I'm super fascinated about is an explanation of a concept in different ways. So if you don't connect exactly with the professor's explanation and he or she is lecturing to a class of 50 to 100 students, that professor, all power to them, has to connect with all those students. Do you see students walking away from class going, okay, I didn't understand that. Now I need to get this. I need to have it explained a different way. Okay, that didn't work. Let me try again. Let me try again. And I think that is, for my tiny learning, I like that. I like to ask it to explain. I use it with my young children, but I'm wondering at this level, do students go, okay, I need this explained. I need it explained in terms of football strategy or piano practice or something. Do you see students doing stuff like that?
I do that myself. So I would think that other students would do that as well. I was just going to say that metaphors are really something that AI does do well at. It can explain things in all sorts of different terms. You could say, hey, explain this in pirate speak, and it will do it.
Yeah.
So really, you can
well, I think that's powerful because you connect it to something that somebody's already familiar with.
Yeah. And it, doesn't have to be pirate speak. It could be exactly football strategy or whatever it is that you already connect with. And I do think that is really starting to unlock some of the true capabilities of AI there. I think it is important to note, though, that if you ask it to explain something, it's not always going to include a metaphor that works for you. It might include one just because that usually tends to help, and people upvote answers that include metaphors. So over time, it would include more, but it might not always resonate. So it's on you as the user to really direct it to tell you exactly what you want to hear in a way that you can understand it. But yes.
So we forgot to mention in the beginning that you were recommended to us by Dr. Frankum, primarily because of your use of artificial intelligence and some work you did with him with linguistics, but also because you understand a little bit of the back end of artificial intelligence. Do you think on the whole, most students really understand it, or they just put their trust in this black box?
Yeah. No, I don't think kids understand it. And frankly, I don't either. I'm not a AI internals master by any means, but from what I've seen, um, and the type of content I'll watch on YouTube or whatever it is, I'll pick up some amount of knowledge. But no, I don't think students really understand how it works. And I remember in uh, our prep talk, we talked about whether people really knew what was going on behind a search engine like Google when it first came out.
Yeah.
and it was probably no.
It still isn't.
Yeah, it still is. Yeah.
So do you
So-
think they're overestimating or underestimating like AI in terms of like, the chatbots and whatnot?
Yeah, I think people overestimate the answers it gives.
So like they put more trust in them.
Yes, I think people put a lot of trust in AI, even though time and time again we're told, hey, this is AI, it's experimental, it's this, that, and the other thing. You might want to double check it.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like being told, hey, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Yeah.
You're probably still gonna believe it,
Yeah.
to be honest. But I think people underestimate what they can do with AI.
Oh, good. I like that. I like that comparison.
Yeah, yeah. But I think people can be smarter or more clever or whatever you would want to call it about how they're prompting AI and how they can make it work for them, like the metaphors or whatever it may be.
So one of my favorite questions to ask are different population segments. And so I'm going to ask you again to speak for every student on campus. Do you think students would benefit from an AI fluency, AI literacy, AI understanding course or workshop or seminar to really show them what it means to use artificial intelligence and understand the bias and the ethics and sort of how they're built? Would that make students more AI fluent? And like you said, they underestimate the power. Would they see the power of it? Something like that?
I think so. I think
And
that-
would they come if something like that was?
I think there's always going to be some subset of students that will be interested in that. But I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people want to get an answer out of AI, and that's their primary concern. But I think just like the ZSR does workshops on research, which is a skill that students need to learn, students, I think, increasingly will need to learn essentially prompt engineering. So I think that a class or a workshop, some amount of instruction would be helpful.
There are some schools out there that are experimenting with AI fluency requirements before graduation.
Interesting.
Now, I don't think Wake Forest is the kind of school that's ready for that, but there are some schools that are way on the end of the spectrum, and there are other schools that don't do anything. I think we are probably moving more towards providing some more resources for the students so they understand the power. And so, like the library is doing, we're enabling the students to use it in the proper way and to give them all the tools. So
I think that's good.
that's interesting.
Yeah. So you said that like for a lot of people they just want they might just want the answer. Do you foresee then perhaps, specifically with students that then eventually, now that we have these tools, that putting a premium actually on knowing, like not just the answer, but the actual like knowledge behind the answer. So for in your instance, like, you can have it help you with this project, but like, do you foresee it actually students eventually really caring about like, yes, it helped me with this, but I know what it's doing?
I think there will be people that see that. And I don't think it's everybody. But as our tools become more capable, the know-how needed to produce something
Mhm.
changes.
Yeah.
We don't need to. I said this in an essay for that modern English grammar class, but we no longer need to know how to write like cuneiform on a clay tablet because we have pencil and paper. So
Mhm.
I kind of compared that to software engineering. We may not need to know um, this algorithm or this search uh, because we can say AI, okay, code binary search. But you do need to
Mhm.
know how to stitch it together into
Yeah.
whatever you're producing. So I think um, the technique that you need changes depending on the tool that you use.
Yeah.
Okay. So now talk about some of these tools that you use and some specific use cases. And what I'd like you to talk about is some cool things you're doing that might inspire other students, or maybe it'd be good for some of our professors to hear how the students are using them. I know you've mentioned all kinds of things like how you use ChatGPT and maybe how you use NotebookLM or VS Code or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So talk to us about three, four, five use cases, whatever, specifically, so you're giving a sense of how seemingly AI forward student is using some of the stuff.
Sure. So I think to start, my first instinct is to go to a traditional chatbot
Mm-hmm.
um, to get started, to get information on the type of project that I would want to do.
Are you typically using the free trial versions, or do you have a subscription?
Typically, I use the free one,
Hmm.
just because I feel that if I were to uh, pay a subscription, I would start to become reliant on it. Hey, I'm paying for this. Why don't I use it?
Mm-hmm.
But I want the freedom to choose um, whether or not I'm going to use it, and I don't want to be kind of influenced. That might be a little bit of a niche take, but yeah, I typically use the free versions, and I know judging AI based on the most accessible model and probably least powerful might not be the best way to assess it. Um, but
Yeah, no,
it's what I do.
fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, so tell us, even the free versions, how do how do you use them?
Yeah. So typically I'll talk about that Jiu-Jitsu recursive graph. So I'll say, okay, what is it that I want to do? I want to add a tooltip that will let me customize the colors of the nodes depending on whether it's a submission or a control position or a guard or whatever it may be. And I know generally what it is I'm looking for. Um, so I'll say, okay, how can I do this in JavaScript or whatever it may be? And it will pop out a decently good answer that I'll then try and fit into um, my current project. And if I am having trouble fitting it in, um, then I'll start to give it more and more context because I want to do the least I can with AI so that I can leave myself the brunt of the learning. Now, if it's just for producing something, um, then I'll give it more context off the bat. So I'll literally paste in code. And that kind of brings me to uh, the next step, I suppose, of that process, which is the agentic AI and like VS Code. So while I had um, I think it was a Pro, ChatGPT Pro free trial for a month, I wanted to produce a data pipeline for my database class. So I was able to do this in Python, and I know Python pretty well. I learned it before AI had come around, so I feel that my knowledge of Python is pretty good, all things considered. So in that case, it was a lot easier to give it context right? I had, I suppose, less control over the context that I was giving it. I would have had to separate things into different files to really tweak the control or the context I was giving it. However, I didn't decide to do that because my final was coming up and I was running out of time. So anytime that there was an error, it was very easy for me to just say, here's the error message. This is what I think you need to do. Can you do it? And it was usually yes. Now sometimes it would mess up and I would just revert back to the last commit. But yes, it was really a trial and error type of workflow, and it popped out with something on the other end that was by no means perfect, but it certainly worked for the use case that I needed. And if I was to really go back and pick through the code, I'm sure that there'd be some problems. But I think that's the reality of working on a tight deadline. But for research projects and sometimes book chapters, if I've read a long chapter and it's hard to keep everything in my head, I'll use NotebookLM. So I'll take the book pages and any other resources, maybe slides that the professor has used, throw those into NotebookLM, and any questions that I might have, I'm able to ask it, and it won't draw from anything else.
Shameless plug for NotebookLM for any employees listening. We have some classes on NotebookLM, and if you're a student listening, please try this for your classwork and study guides. It's an amazing tool, specifically built for the classroom and study guide. So if you haven't used it, please use it. I believe it's the second most useful general AI tool out there, behind the AI assistant chatbots and everything.
Okay. I would tend to agree with that. NotebookLM has definitely been a godsend in some cases. I've also used DeepSeek for math in particular. I did use ChatGPT for a time. This was when I was taking Calc 2, and I was trying to understand, especially studying for the final. I had it generate all sorts of practice problems, and anytime that I couldn't do it, it would be able to walk me through it very straightforwardly, exactly how a teacher would. So for math, I think DeepSeek is quite good. I've also used the Deep Research a couple of times on I think it was ChatGPT.
And explain a little bit about what Deep Research. I don't think a lot of, unfortunately, I don't think people know what Deep Research is.
Yeah, so it essentially, and frankly, I haven't used it that much, so I'm not the expert to ask, but as a student would say it essentially takes its time. It'll go through a bunch of sources and try and draw specifically from those sources. And it will come together with a report when I tried it was a couple minutes. Might have gotten faster in the meantime, but it will come together with a report, and it will sort or rather cite any information that it's getting. It will look a lot like Perplexity output, but longer, more detailed, and something that you can draw from as its own source. Frankly, I've used that output from the Deep Research and put that into NotebookLM, and that was super helpful as well. And anytime that it said, "Oh, it doesn't say exactly what this is," or the sources don't say exactly the answer to this question, it's a very NotebookLM type response. I would simply go to the source that it listed, and it would be right there.
So, for all those who haven't used it, it is most people's first taste of an agent, because you give Deep Research a task, and it goes off and does it by itself, and it comes back with whatever you've asked it to. And it actually develops a research plan. And all the big labs have deep research now. Gemini has it, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. They all have versions of it. And still, what I would always caution people to do is all the sources are listed, so you can go back. You read the research report. They're fantastic by most measures, but most of the time the sources are linked there as well, so you can see where it's pulling that information. So it helps. Well, I even hesitate to even mention hallucinations now because they're going towards zero. Very few hallucinations anymore, but you can actually cite the sources and see where they're coming from. So it's most people's first foray into using an actual agent.
Mm-hmm. That's a better way to describe it.
No, you described it perfectly. I was just adding a little more context. You nailed it.
But if I could talk about hallucinations
Go
for
for
a
it.
sec.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this, and I mentioned this in our prep call as well. I remember seeing this guy that had worked in data science for years, and so has kind of an interesting take on AI. He said that AI is like a blurry JPEG of the web, which essentially means as you zoom in, it's going to get more and more pixelated. So when you're looking for very, very specific things, documentation on certain functions in some niche app, which I'll find myself in a lot, then sometimes the AI model is not the best way to go. But then again, sometimes it can just predict it, fine. So it really is, you can go to one of these AI models first, see if the output works. And, with any sort of coding or configuration files, you have that immediate feedback. So it's very helpful. And if it doesn't work, well, then you can go investigate on Google yourself.
Absolutely.
But yes, hallucinations are, I would not say they're common at all unless you really are getting into this niche stuff.
Okay. This is like Final Jeopardy. So I want to ask you a closing thought. But before we get there, is there anybody you want to say hi to? Family, friends, professors? I mean, we already said hi to Dr. Frankham, but anybody else you want to give a shout out to?
Let's see. Well, I'll say
because
hi.
Now when you say their name, they have to listen.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mom and Dad, I'm going to make you listen to this, of course.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Leela, my sister. Atish, Jay, Ethan, my roommates. Everyone in the computer science department. I truly wouldn't understand half of the stuff I do today without Wake's computer science professors and everything they've done for me. So, I mean, just a big shout out to the department, I think.
Yeah, and we'll give credit to some of our colleagues, the HPC guys over there.
Certainly.
Yeah,
Certainly.
Adam, Cody, Sean. But okay, you only got a couple months left here. What are you doing after graduation?
That's a great question. I'm looking for a job. So I have an opportunity to interview for a software development role. So I'm super excited for that. I, frankly, over the last couple...
This is a great resume builder, by the way.
Yeah. I thought about that, honestly. But, man, over the last week, I suppose, since I've heard that I might be able to interview, I've just been grinding leak code and all these things. If I don't end up getting the position, I don't want it to be my fault. I want to do everything I possibly can to succeed. And I know everything's not within my control. I think as I start to look for roles, and if the job search continues, I'll think about what skills do I need to build to really fulfill my career. And I think I'll take a bit of time to build those skills, and maybe I'll go back into a master's program. But for now, I'm really just seeing what the future holds for me.
Well, for you, and anybody else who's listening and thinking about their life after Wake, we had a great episode with Andy Chan from the Office of Personal and Career Development. Now, I'm sure you've already gone through all this stuff, but Andy gives a lot of advice about how students need to think about their path and what it takes in this world we're now entering. So for anybody else listening, go back and listen. Andy gives some great advice.
I'm curious, real quick, I'm just curious, during your like job search, are you seeing a lot of actual, like, in the postings, like a request for knowledge about artificial intelligence or any particular tools?
Well, not AI tools in particular. I think it's understood that most applicants in my field will have AI knowledge. I think
that's just table stakes now.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think, as the younger generation is looking for jobs, they just have this sort of innate understanding of what they can do with AI and what they can't do. And I think as time goes on, kids are going to grow up with AI being a part of their lives and just, like Google, become more efficient with it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It was a lot of fun.
Thanks again to our guest, and thanks for listening to the Deeks.ai podcast. Please continue to follow the AI discussion by subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you have any comments, questions, or would like to join the discussion, please email us at deeks.ai@wfu.edu.